Amresh, welcome to the show. Man, I love asking this question. How does it feel to be Amresh today?
It feels wonderful. Every day brings new challenges, new things, right? And it's all about, what the day brings in. And, if you're up for the fight to make it a great, great day. So here I am making it a great day.
That's awesome. And that perspective of gratitude helps us stay focused on that because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, especially when you're an entrepreneur, especially in
Hmm.
fintech, prop tech, all these wonderful worlds that you're in. I'm excited to
Yep.
talk about. There's problems, but there's always
Yep.
solutions. So just attacking the day, and when you get frustrated, just pulling back and refocusing on gratitude. What are you grateful for? And if you could start every day just that with that smile, like when I ask you that question, the day is going to be
Hmm.
good. We're going to have challenges, but we're ready to rock and roll. So I'm
Yep.
excited to jump into this conversation. Not to give a full background of, you're not a doctor, right? You're not a physician. You are
No, I'm
a
not.
entrepreneur, right?
Hmm.
So what led
Absolutely.
you to launch Home Abroad and Ziffy? What problem were you seeing in the market? Like, where did this come from?
Yeah, that's a great question, bro. Right. So, I'm originally from India, right? And I moved to the US 10 years back, working for a big multinational bank, right? And when I came in over here, it took me, I consider myself as educated, smart, someone that can make money work for itself, right? And having all that knowledge and awareness, I waited for, 5 years to buy my house in the US, right? And looking back, realized had I invested in my real estate, as soon as I could have financially, viable, right? I could have made so much wealth in equity, right? And I kind of let go of that opportunity just because of lack of knowledge and awareness. And I realized, that's not me. There's so many people who are in my shoes who don't take advantage of the wealth building opportunity that the US real estate provides and the advantages of US real estate, which even Americans don't realize who live and work in the US, right? Uh, so, first founded Home Abroad to help global investors invest in US real estate. And we'll a little bit talk about why US real estate and why it makes sense, right? It's probably one of the only real estate market in the world where you can generate cash flow with leverage, right? Which means 20-25% of your money helps you buy 100% of the property, and rent covers mortgage. Not only rent covers mortgage, it generates you excess cash flow.
Hmm.
So, you're generating cash flow with leverage, plus your money is growing or appreciating, in every year, right? It doesn't happen in most markets around the world, right? So that knowledge, first I was kind of looking inwards and say, okay, global investors or people moving to the US newcomers don't know about this. So hence founded Home Abroad, to help global investors, newcomers buy real estate in the US. And then I realized, this knowledge is not even accessible to most Americans, right? Only 8% Americans own investment property. And, thought, okay, we have to democratize this. We have to kind of come up with a platform like a Zillow for investment properties that can help you understand why you should invest in real estate, so that's kind of my journey, started with Home Abroad, realized that this problem is bigger, more than just global investors. And then we expanded into Ziffy to serve both local and global investors investing in US real estate. In the US, you can lock into your mortgage payment for the term of the loan, which is a 30-year period. Plus, because of the longer amortization period, your monthly payments are lower, right? So if I'm a landlord, right, or if even if I'm paying my mortgage payment, I don't have any payment shock. I know that my payment is going to be X for next 30 years. Right? It simply does not exist in most markets around the world. Now, combine that with high rental yields in the US. And in the US market, the rent demand for rent is high. Yeah? In most markets around the world, the average rental yield is 8 to 10%. If you buy in right market, it can go up to 12 to 14%, which is great, right? So combine high rental yields with 30-year fixed rate mortgages, you're looking at a great wealth building tool. Because now what's happening is your rent covers the mortgage, monthly mortgage payment that you're going to make, which is your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, HOA, if any. So combine all that together, which is your monthly mortgage payment. In most markets, if you buy in the right market, the rental income that you will make on that particular property is going to be higher than that mortgage payment. Now, what that means is on day one, you're generating cash flow. So you're using leverage, which means you're only putting 20% of your money to buy 100% of the property, right? And the property starts generating you cash flow on day one. So the return on your money that you put in is high. Plus, that money is compounding, right? Because you're going to increase your rent every year, right? The property price is going to, increase, general property appreciation, every year, right? So if you take into effect of cash flow plus property appreciation, your return on year one on an average basis in most investments is going to be around 25 to 30%, which is great, right? Next 4 or 5 years, you're going to be over 100%. I don't know any asset class that gives you returns like this. But at the same time, in US, we have something called a cash out refinance, which means your money that you're seeing in your property appreciating is not just paper money. You can tap into that equity, right? You can do something called a cash out refinance. For example, I bought a property for $400,000 in year one, right? It gave me cash flow, everything is going well. 3 years down the line, the property value is say $450,000, right? I can take that extra $50,000 out from my property, use that money as a down payment on another property, which now happens to be cash flow positive from day one, right? So technically speaking, nothing came out from my pocket. The equity that I gained on my first investment helped me, put down payment on my second investment, which in turn is cash flow positive on itself because rent is covering mortgage on that one, right? And you can kind of, rinse and repeat this process to build a portfolio of investment properties. So the first property you bought helped you buy the second property and then repeat that cycle, right? So, it helps you create this generational wealth, which people just don't know about.
Right.
In a conventional mortgage, you're qualified based on your income, right? So there's a term called DTI, debt to income ratio, which basically is a simple ratio saying how much money you make and what are your monthly mortgage, what are your monthly debt obligation, which might include your mortgage payment on your primary house you're living in, your payment to your credit card, your payment to your car loan, etc. Right? So technically speaking, I am for a regular real estate investor, right? So I have a primary house that I live in, right? I bought one investment property, right? So now I have two mortgages that I'm paying, right? When you tend to expand your portfolio to a third investment property and you go to a bank or a credit union for an investment property loan, they're going to look at your income, right? And most likely, you are like making a W-2 paycheck, right? So they're going to look at your income and say, okay, you're making one mortgage payment, you're making another mortgage payment, right? In most scenarios, your rental income that you're generating, you're right. If you're a regular real estate investor, you're also writing off some of those, day-to-day expenses, right? So that income might not qualify, right? So you hit a wall, when you're trying to qualify based on your income and debt to income ratio, right? Now, where the non-QM mortgages come into play, specifically what we call a DSCR loan, debt service coverage ratio loan, right? Is we say, okay, we know you are taking this mortgage out to buy an investment property. So let's not look at your personal income or your W-2s. Let's look at the rental income of the property. Till the rental income of the property covers your debt obligation, which is your monthly mortgage payment, right? I'm going to qualify you for the loan. So now practically what I'm doing is I am qualifying each property based on its own merit versus looking at your income. So till the property is cash flow positive back to you, you get the loan, which puts you in a great position as a real estate investor as well, because even before you commit to buying that investment property or commit to financing, as a lender, we are vetting out that this property makes sense because it's going to give you the cash flow, and mind you, in a conservative way, because we are going to take a conservative approach on the rent, right, to meet your investment objective. Right. So now with that product, it's a very, very powerful product because now, technically speaking, you can build hundreds of investment property because each property qualifies on its own merit till you have the down payment requirement to meet, which is practically speaking between 15% and 20% if you're a US citizen and 25% if you're a foreign national with no US credit history. So we look for right partners that we can vet out. We can say, okay, these are the clients that or partners we feel comfortable in interacting with our clients, and we make it easy for our clients then to find those partners that are already vetted for them to solve that next piece in the puzzle. And what we try from a company perspective, approach perspective, is to kind of put that into a one single vertically integrated experience. So within that experience, you are kind of taken care of. For example, like when you are in the loan process, our processors actually start talking to our insurance partners, and we collect the quotes for a client and say, hey, these are the quotes for your insurance, keeping in mind that we have to meet your DSCR issue as well. So we make sure that they get the bare bone quotes. Of course, if they want to add additional coverage and whatnot, they can, right? But we give them the option which they wouldn't have had if they were shopping on their own, right? But at the end of the day, it's also streamlining the process, because once they say, yes, this makes sense, like our processors can work directly with the insurance agents to really get that quote binded, right? So it saves a lot of time, energy from a client perspective, and makes the process overall very efficient, right? So anywhere where we can make it efficient, we're trying to put that into our structure, right? So it's one vertically integrated process to make the experience smoother for our clients. So for the a global investor who is still looking, or who's looking to build a portfolio, first thing is making sure you know where to buy, because not all markets are created equal. You need to find the right market that meets your investment objective, right? But once you find your market, make sure that you have your finances in order, right? Last moment, what you want to do is, move money across different, foreign banks into the US, right? So the most streamlined this is, right? So if you're moving money from one source that's hit your US bank account, it would make the whole process much more simpler, right? Take care of some of the housekeeping items like opening a US bank account, and we can help with that, opening a US LLC, while you are still outside. And again, for international customers, it's a hassle, because you need to obtain something called an EIN number, right? And if you're an international customer and you don't have a social security number, obtaining EIN is a hassle, right? Because you can't obtain an EIN number in 2 seconds by punching it on the IRS website, right? So there's a process where you have to fax IRS, to kind of see where yet. Trust me or not, Brad, like people, the alternative is mail, snail mail, and they would get the EIN number in 4 months. By that time, the board has sailed. So we actually help our clients, faxing the form. We fill it out the form, we fax the form to IRS, receive EIN number on their behalf within a week. Like versus 4 to 6 weeks, that would have taken them if they were doing this thing on their own. So we have tried to kind of streamline the entire process for them to make it efficient. But these are the housekeeping items that you should, kind of make sure you are taken care of before you start investing in the US. Get a US bank account, establish a US LLC, right? Make sure that your finances are in order, and find a good market for you to invest in.